Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Automation Nation inside Barnum. I'm your host, Cody, and today we have a guest from one of our suppliers. We're going to be talking about some of the stuff here that's sitting on the table and what it means and what it does, and just kind of expanding on this brand. So, welcome. Can you please introduce yourself and let me know who you are, what you do, and where you're from?
Yeah. Hi. And I guess your audience. I'm going to be one of those people that looks into the camera. Hi, I'm Nikki Gonzalez. I'm a director of business development at Weintek USA, which is this wonderful HMI manufacturer. I'm also the co-host of a podcast called Automation Ladies. And where do I come from? I'm not going to spend the next hour talking about myself, but I started out as a sales engineer in machine vision and then in pneumatics and motion control. And I took a few
All
detours.
stuff Barnum knows well.
Yeah. So I used to, go into factories, and I loved it opened my eyes about manufacturing and how things were made and how much cool stuff there was. But because of my ADHD and my problem-solving sort of passion, I kept looking up and down the line. And once I solved one problem, I wanted to know, well, how can I prevent that from happening in the first place?
Sure.
Or what happens when my vision system says that this product is bad? And then what do we do with that? And I realize that I'm the type of person that really enjoys being at the bottom of a steep learning curve. And once I know something too well, it gets boring. So I wouldn't call myself any kind of job hopper. I just found that when opportunities come to me that allow me to learn something really cool and very unique, or something I don't have the education for, I take it. So I've also worked in simulation for product development for manufacturability. And then I also worked in supply chain for a while, helping manufacturers, distributors, retailers forecast demand for products so that they can actually have the right stock, know what to do with that. So I started working in kind of enterprise AI about a decade ago.
Sure.
I actually ended up working with a lot of movie studios, predicting demand for their movies before they get released.
That's unique.
So they know how many DVDs they have to ship to every Walmart and Best Buy in the country. And I like to connect these types of dots. So having worked across, a lot of different areas in the industry and sort of, in manufacturing in general, worked for a software startup in the supply chain space with distributors most recently before I joined Weintek. So it's a little bit about me in a nutshell.
In short amount of time? How long of a time frame? 10, 15 years?
It's been about almost 20, I guess, almost 20 years now. I worked since middle school, really. I started interning for my dad's business when I was in middle school. So depends on where you want to make that cutoff. When did my career start? I've always worked as long as I can remember.
Well, good. You got a pretty vast resume. Like I said, a lot of hats.
Yeah.
But that brings different optics and experience to now kind of one core line, which I guess in the grand scheme of things, that is so necessary because a lot of people get tunnel vision on their product. So bringing someone like you in definitely helps some expansion, a little bit different mindset, even though we know already that this line from Weintek is already so, I guess, open and diverse from what they do. They're not just a clean-cut single option on the shelf. They're very unique, I would say, in the HMI space. And I guess that's really what boils down to is HMIs. That's what we're talk about.
It's simple and complex at the same time, right? And I enjoy kind of storytelling as a way of problem solving. So early in the day when I used to call on people, wait for them to take my call, bring me into their factory to let me show them a demo, I thought about it for a while, like marketplaces are a thing where you can go look up lots of different options for different things. And I was like, well, that seems so much more efficient than who will take my phone call to find out about this technology, right? Kind of everyone should know. And I was thinking about this when I was doing the enterprise AI stuff, because everybody was looking for a model to solve their problem. But there are only so many companies doing it, and finding them was a problem, and then finding, is it a match? And so I was just always kind of thinking like, man, this one-on-one approach, it's great because you get to establish a relationship with someone can really show you stuff. But then I was like, man, it's kind of luck of the draw, like who actually gets to see what's what. And in our industry, not a lot of content was being shared kind of openly, right?
Sure.
And so you had to have a sales call to be able to see the thing.
Yep. or register for an exclusive webinar.
Yeah. And then, of course, you kind of had to be qualified as a customer. Like, if you're not going to buy anything, then it's not exactly the salesperson's, worth their time to come see you, and vice versa. If you're not really looking to buy or solve a problem right now, then why would you waste your time with the 1-hour demo of something?
Yeah, only the biggest, largest companies that have that money to burn are willing to just TED Talk their stuff out there.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess, during COVID is really when kind of more of our industry was forced to bring what they do online. And for better or worse, that's kind of where we are now. And I love the fact that we can kind of get this information out there in front of people that may not have a need to solve that problem right now, but so that they know what's out there. And not just from, I've seen a couple of demos of these things in the past. And that's why, love that people like you guys, even as distributor, are doing content and, filming stuff, bringing it on the road so that more people can see what these potential tools and solutions are before they even have a problem to solve.
Absolutely. I mean, we've always kind of been, every single episode of this podcast, I bring up the words value added. We're a value-added company. We always try to bring more than just a product to someone. It is a solution solve, or how can we do more than just a solution solving? And whether it's from an expansive product that can solve more than one thing, or training videos like our content that we've been starting to make, or just doing that little bit of extra, whether it's this, having a conversation that then people can expand all over the place and show it to their customers, more than just handing a brochure to them. So the value added is huge. Like, that's, Barnum invests heavily in that.
That's really cool.
Where we've made our name, and we only really pride our suppliers really high up on that tier when they bring some value add too. Like, if you're probably going to be on the bottom of our line card if you're just a nut and bolt sales.
Yeah.
You got to bring some value add to us as well, and we're going to pump you up.
Yeah. And this is, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but when I became aware of Weintek, it was really HMIs that are in stock and available, because it was during COVID when other people were quoting 52 weeks or no quote, or like, good luck, right? And I got referred to Keith Moyer, our VP of sales. I call him up and he's like, yep, we have it in stock. We can ship it today. Like, how many do you need? And then I was like, oh, this is interesting. Cool. But I still just thought it was an HMI, right? I'm not a controls engineer that has personally purchased or programmed HMIs before.
Yep.
So, it registered to me as great quality supplier that has product. And then I found out, they've actually been around for 30 years. I haven't heard of them, but that's also because in the past they were most often private labeled and things like that. So they have a huge history, but are maybe not a household name. But then it was really when I found out how much more it is than just an HMI that I became a lot more interested.
And that's, I'd say, overarching the main sales pitch on these things, is it is more than just the HMI. Yes, we got some beautiful looking HMIs here, and what one HMI can do, the others can most likely do when it comes to the human machine interaction.
The operator panel,
that's what it's originally built on, is what HMI stands for. But Weintek just keeps adding and adding and adding stuff to it, with the play of, it's not going to cost you really anything extra. And that's the big thing. That's I guess when we go out there and our salesmen are trying to sell this, they don't even have to sell it, because they bring someone like myself or someone like just a rep, and they just start talking about the other functionality that now everyone's gears start turning on. I can remove that from my panel, or that from my machine, or cancel this subscription. And it just starts kind of segueing into, you mean that's all wrapped up into this one little box with one reasonable
that I already need
product
anyway.
That I was going to slap on the machine in general because it looked pretty. I mean,
and that's why kind of my history of where I sit, and I had started to talk on Industry 4.0 panels, and when I was working in the AI, in the supply chain, that was part of digital transformation, right? So I had been kind of around all these big buzzwords for a really long time, and I was working with really, really big CPG companies and stuff. But I knew that my customers that I had been seeing when I was selling vision systems, they weren't using that, or they were not necessarily ready for that.
Sure.
But everybody was talking about it, like they needed it, right? And I became very fatigued with all these big industry buzzwords, because just having enough practical experience, I could also tell that some of the people that were talking about it, because they were just the vendors selling the solution. Like, how many factories have you actually been in where they're ready for this.
Right.
And so I kind of came into some of these panel discussions and things with like a healthy amount of skepticism, but with some actual examples. Same thing with like IoT, Industrial Internet of Things.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I had been doing that with my dad's company since middle school. Before it was called IoT, we were tracking trucks and barges and things like that, and reporting back and doing electronic forms that normally are done on paper. But those sorts of things, I was just like really tired of hearing it. And then here you have a company that doesn't. I think, yeah, on our website it says, we can enable Industry 4 and stuff like that. But it's like, yeah, it's an actual practical piece of hardware that you need, that you already have to pay for. And then you know what? It actually does all these things that these people have been talking about, and doesn't.
If you need them, you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and exactly, and you don't actually have to pay for them. So they're there if you need them, and you don't have to use them if you don't need them. But it also, to me, I saw a lot of painful retrofits, and with ERP systems and digitalization and stuff. It's not. You can't just add it to what you already have. You have to rip everything out and start over and do a whole rollout or a whole changeover, and it was always painful. It was never on budget. It was never on time.
And that's why we never saw most factories implementing it, because it is a whole changeover. Nobody has the money or time to end production or change up their production to make those changes.
So the idea that if somebody has no interest in Industry 4 or IoT, but they just need an HMI, but I know that as soon as their customer later on asks about this thing, you know what? You actually already have the thing.
There's no brand swapping. There's no upgrade needed. Yeah. I mean, technically they could upgrade if they wanted to something, but I mean, there's no upgrade needed. One of the biggest things that we talk about, what our customers always are talking about, is having to subscribe to things. And Weintek says $99.
Yeah.
You just unlocked every functionality under the entire umbrella. And that all is on there already. It's there. It's on every screen that's sold within reason. There's probably some real basic models that don't have it.
Yeah.
But I don't even see many people using those. They just
they're
buy the better ones anyway. Right,
all those basic ones are kind of coming to end of life with us.
Yep.
And I actually had someone ask me last year. They were like, well, how much of a, how proven is this product?
Sure.
And at some point it came up and I was like, oh, but you don't want these models. They're probably approaching end of life. And the guy goes, oh, if you're already having products that are being obsoleted then you've been in the market for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And we don't obsolete products just for the heck of it or often, right? That's another pain point, is kind of the artificial, like, oh, we're going to obsolete this product, so you buy a new one, and now you have to upgrade, and now you have to buy new software, and now you have to rewrite your program from scratch.
Yeah.
I actually went on Reddit and I saw a comment that somebody had been using Weintek HMIs for over a decade, and they had gone through an obsolescence, exercise. And they were like, every time that we do have to upgrade, there's always a forward migration path. And it's easy and it's well supported and you don't have to pay anything extra. So again, been around long enough, like I kind of look for red flags now. And this is one of those things that I did a lot of research. I asked around a lot before I joined this company. Mm-hmm. Because let's face it, as salespeople and technical people, the worst thing is like, you don't want to sell a product you can't fully believe in.
Yeah,
or that it doesn't bring the best value to people. Yeah. They do. And I do care a lot about my integrity. Even though I'm now no longer really in sales, I learned early on that reputation follows you, no matter what you're selling. This industry is kind of small. It's big and small at the same time. But if you do a good job and you recommend things that actually bring value, people remember that.
Well, and that's huge for us at Barnum, because if we recommend something that's a failure, that washes tons of other business for us, because we don't just sell HMIs.
Right.
We sell everything in automation. Mm-hmm. So if we ruin the reputation with someone because of one bad product, they might not want to come to us for the other 99% of the stuff.
Exactly.
And so being able to have the backing of good products and not be able to just lie to someone's face that it can or can't do this, or we'll find out. You buy it and we'll figure it out later. We don't have to worry about that, and we can keep our business going the way we want, because our guys strive, like I said again, to bring value, and we're not going to just drop a part off and walk away.
Yeah.
I mean,
I learned this early on when I was the applications engineer and the sales engineer and the trainer and the support person. Because the only person you shoot in the foot if you sell the wrong thing is yourself at that point.
Yep.
And so you take responsibility for the technical success of your customer. And so that's really important. I also have been, I've worked for startups, and that's a very different place to be because you kind of have to sell a vision and then back it up with the product development because in a startup, you generally never have a very mature product, right? You've just found product market fit, or you found something that adds value, brings value, and you have a vision of how much more you can do.
And there's not as much investment to just trial and fail. Like, you need it to work.
You do.
You need it to work.
But then the trouble with selling that vision is sometimes the company has to pivot, or the investors say, no, actually don't do this, do that. And then you're not quite in control of fully solving the customer's problem. And so that is one of the things too that drew me to working with Weintek, being a 30-year-old company and focusing very heavily on one thing. I know that the product roadmap, I know where it is and where it's going in terms of, like, we're not trying to invest in this, invest in that, do these different things, spin off into something else. They're very secure in who they are and what they do, and they're going to keep it that way. And so to me, that was kind of a nice change of pace to have a very, very well-developed, tested, product that's out there. It's installed in millions of factories around the world, and it just works. And that's a foundation that you can build on. And then there was like, wait a minute, there's all this super exciting stuff that people don't know about on the top of the fact that it just works and is out there.
On that topic.
Yeah.
Not to go too deep down the brochure on what Weintek is rabbit hole, it's an HMI. What are some of those exciting things that does besides just human-machine interfacing?
Yeah.
Like, what are those extra features that this has that really blows away others?
So the first thing that caught my attention was the protocol driver support.
Yeah.
So not only does it support almost every industrial protocol you can imagine, but then it has an actual driver for almost every device you can imagine. So thinking about this too, if I'm just going to be the HMI in this bill of materials, then I need to talk really well with the PLC of any brand, because I'm not trying to, displace the whole stack or the whole bill of materials. And it needs to play really, really well with others. So number one, great. It can connect with the Siemens PLC. It can connect with the, anything that you can imagine, right? And then when they mentioned that, and then you can actually do protocol conversion between all of those protocols inside the HMI. And I know that you can buy a multi-$100 appliance that all it does is convert from one protocol to another.
Those are $1,000 devices a lot of times in someone's panel. Like, it's...
And panel space is always at a premium, right? And bill of materials, everybody's costs are rising for everything. And so how do you actually cut cost in a panel these days without going to worse product or lesser quality, right? Those are always things I'm thinking about. And so I was like, wait, right off the bat, you can eliminate like a $500 device from the cabinet just for one thing. I was like, that's really, really cool. And then, so we have no restriction on how much protocol conversion you can do in the EasyBuilder Pro software. The only restriction is really, can you get it to the HMI in terms of, connecting it? Which is not really a hard problem. But that was the first thing. And I was like, whoa, that's super cool. And then I looked at, because I go to some of these Industry 4.0 digital transformation type conferences, and they always like to talk about the data layer and then AI and, the SCADA and all these different things. And I'm like, but you can't do that if you can't get the data from the machine. But none of those guys are really they're like, oh, that's already solved, isn't it?
Yeah, they got another couple $1,000 edge device you can slap on there next to it. Right?
Yeah, or a gateway. And then you have to pay for a driver for a particular thing. And then you got to pay for a driver for that, you want MQTT with SparkPlug-B to send messages up to your unified namespace. Well, here's another $1,000 charge for that. And then there's a subscription. So I went to one of those events last year, and there were... This event, the point of it was they had to kind of prove up on stage that they could connect to this data source, or there was like a virtual factory. And every single one of those presentations had a cost in the tens of thousands of dollars or more, with a recurring subscription of thousands to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars per year going forward. And I was sitting in that audience, and I was like, man, do these people, they don't know. They don't know that they don't need this. Not that, this addresses, like, we're not trying to be a SCADA or
be a whole IT system.
Yeah, that whole thing sits on top of that. But to be able to get your data get started with that sort of stuff, it doesn't have to be that huge, implementation that to me just brings that red flag of like, oh my gosh, another ERP rollout, So that part, when I looked into, it can be an OPC UA server if you want, or if you're just talking, if it's just a node, right, it can be an OPC UA client. And then the MQTT with Spark B being built in natively for free. And then database connectivity sounds simple and, basic, but connecting your HMI to a SQL database actually requires more effort in a lot of cases than we have native connectors for that. Or if you want to connect to a cloud database, again, it's a native connector for that. And what I was thinking too is like, anytime you get IT involved, you've just increased your cost and your scope and your timeline and your level of red tape. And so as OT folks or OT engineers or controls engineers, if you can just make that connection with a couple of clicks and you don't actually have to get IT involved, then to me that just seems so much more approachable, so much easier to do. And it's a whole nother like budget process that you don't have to go through it all to be able to enable a lot of that functionality. And I really have a soft spot for small manufacturers. The backbone of American manufacturing is small to medium-sized companies. And they're the ones that don't have the budgets in the big IT departments. I know a lot of plant engineers that they have tons of automation projects that they would love to do if they could just get the budget, but instead they're spending all their time patching up stuff and keeping production running. And they're not going to get budget for these big things. They're probably going to get rolled out from the top, but then the problem is, okay, now where do you actually get the data?
Yeah.
And that's a piece that we solve that I think is not well known to most people. And they wouldn't necessarily think of the HMI as being the product or the piece of it that can fulfill that.
Because like you said previously, it's not a requirement to have that. Yeah. It's just a free additional functionality that's on something you've already purchased or needed for your machine.
Yeah. Another one would be Easy Access 2.0. So that's our answer to remote VPN connection to a machine.
Which is becoming almost necessary in most people's machines nowadays.
Yeah. And especially if you are the OEM, not having to send out a service person that's blind and has no idea why the machine isn't running or why, it's
could be across the world.
And some OEMs are small and they don't have huge field service teams. And so the customer has to wait a long time to get somebody to come out to try to fix the problem, right? So it seems completely like it's a no-brainer that you should be able to remote into the machine and do diagnostics or service and in some cases now, I think this is a real smart thing. Machine builders can sell maintenance packages and actually monitor the equipment for their customers that don't have, a big PM program maybe internally. But that again is one of those things that, yes, it's gaining in popularity, but people are paying for an extra appliance that's hundreds to, thousands of dollars, takes up extra room. It's another budget line item. And now typically it comes with a subscription, right? Because it requires data. And that's usually something you have to pay for on a yearly or a monthly basis. And for a one-time $99 fee, again, you don't need a separate device. It's already built in. And you get free data for life.
Which is huge.
It is. It is huge. And for machine builders that are, again, under price pressures, they're trying to provide machines at a reasonable cost to their customers. Everything is becoming more expensive in that cabinet. It just is a no-brainer, yeah. And I personally have become so upset by subscription costs, in my personal life.
Yeah.
Don't we all have what was that getting pulled out of my bank account? I forgot I had this subscription.
It was only a few years ago when we said, get rid of cable. We can get everything cheaper for 1 or 2 subscriptions. And now there's 75 subscriptions. That makes cable look cheap again.
I subscribed to a service to help me cancel subscriptions. And it still doesn't work half the time. And now I want to cancel that one and half of my subscriptions. But they make it so hard to cancel some of these things.
Yeah.
That I've been trying for months to cancel something. And I really got to report them to the Better Business Bureau or something, but I just don't have time for that.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, so
they figured out that market real well.
And I'm like, everyone in B2B I see, they want that. And I get it. You want recurring revenue. It's easier to make money when your customer's on auto pay. And it's just already in their budget, and it's going to be harder for them to cancel.
Yeah.
But I think philosophically, I just really loved this. They took a hard line on nothing will be a recurring charge.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, we're oversaturated with information. We're oversaturated with options. We're oversaturated with things that are being sold to us constantly for all kinds of things. And so the idea of being able to simplify that and as a vendor offer something that is cost effective, like it's straightforward and you know what the price is and it's never going to charge you more.
Yeah, we've had this conversation with customers so many times where we tell them, you need this, you need this, you need this. Well, it's the one-time $99 fee. And they're like, that's bullcrap. There's no way that covers all 4 of those services. I mean, is it $100 for each one of them? No, it's just the one. And even our own salesmen have, picked up the phone and called you guys or called me. It's like, are you serious right now? We only are having to charge them the $100 once. And like, that's how it is. Like, it's how they're doing it. And and why can't other companies do it? We don't know. I mean, maybe there's some shiesty under the table stuff that Weintek's doing to keep the prices so low, but it's working.
It's actually, I can tell you the secret to that. It's pretty simple when you really think about it or when you know, right? So Weintek is a private company run by engineers. And they started in 1995 and they built one of the first graphical user interfaces. So this has just been a passion of theirs. And they have stuck with that. So they're like, we're not trying to grow and be the end-all be-all automation company of the world. We're not going to take on and white label and sell, everything you could need in your cabinet. We're just the experts on HMIs, and we're going to do that and do that really well.
See how far we can take HMIs.
But we are the manufacturer and the software developer. So we take full ownership over everything that we sell in terms of we develop the software, we develop the hardware, and we manufacture the hardware. So we own the factory. And we only make things that we can make in high volumes, which is why we don't have thousands of SKUs. We have less than 100 because we do make things, we want them to be cost effective. And the way to do that is either you cut costs and make cheap product or you have economies of scale and you actually pass that on to a customer. And that's what we've done. We've chosen to take a OEM kind of route. We sell to high volume OEMs primarily. And we've made the price an OEM-friendly price, and that's what we engineer and design for, is to be able to manufacture a high-quality product in such a high volume that we can actually sell them at low prices. What we don't have is, hundreds of salespeople going across the country trying to sell our, we're going to be your entire factory solution. So we don't have to have those margins built in. We sell mostly at high volumes. And so I think of it sometimes like the only other company I know of that does this is IKEA. But you'll go into IKEA and they're like, oh, we have a new price on this product this year and it's actually lower because we've sold so many of them and we've been able to lower our cost in manufacturing. When I joined Weintek, they actually lowered some prices on some of their most popular models. And I was like, I've never seen this in our industry.
Everything goes up.
It's always,
for
this
no
year's
reason,
price
too.
increase,
Blanket.
cost goes up. Of course cost goes up. But if you're actively trying to design to keep costs in check and or keep, getting those economies of scale, that's just our philosophy. And so that is why I initially also was like, wait, if it's cheap, it's got to be bad, right? Because we're at a price point compared to some competitors that really are, you're buying a cheaper product for the sake of getting a lower price.
Yeah, we do that as well. They're selling the quality product and then selling someone on, I just need something because my budget is small.
Exactly.
But then when the person gets it, the engineer starts working with it, they're like, oh, it can do all this other, like, why why were we buying the one that
with
was
Weintek.
5 times?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and the other thing too is people who are watching this on YouTube too, look at that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a huge HD monitor HMI, and I mean, it's 1.5 inches thick, and the thing is just well done. Every other HMI like this on the market is a monster. Big back end on this thing. You have to design a thicker panel just to put it on.
Yeah.
And this thing is so much cheaper, quote unquote, than so many others on the market.
And part of that
as heck doesn't look or feel like it.
Yeah, and we try to consolidate also our bill of materials for economies of scale. So the interesting thing I thought too was like we have these little 4.3 inches that are cheaper because they're smaller, and then these go up in size. But they actually all have the same core inside. We have one conformally coated PCB in there, which is also a high quality way to manufacture any electronics. It's more expensive, And it takes very careful design to be able to fit everything that you need on one layer PCB instead of having multiple PCBs with interconnects and stuff.
Sure.
But because we make that one board, and it's very well designed, and it's conformally coated for super high quality, so it lasts forever. But we stick that board inside every single one of these, which is why we can make millions of that one board. We buy millions of every single one of those components inside. And so we can get a lower price from our suppliers because we're not making, 100 different variations and trying to optimize for cost for every single product to be the lowest cost in production or development.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like we put all of our efforts into making that one design really, really good. And then it plays across our entire product line. And then the other thing is we leave it to others to create, products that are not as in demand. Like, all of our panels are rated IP66. We don't have IP69 or, marine. There's other companies that specialize in that.
Yeah.
So we kind of take that 80% approach. We make, we can fulfill probably 80% of applications with this, 20% of actual products that we could make. And that's how we were able to keep the cost low. If we were making every variation that you could think of and we had all this configurable product and we'd have to make special production runs,
sure,
then that would cost us a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like just being on the distribution side, it's so easy just to keep swinging with the same thing over and over. You don't have to, well, we're going to go with this one or this one or this one. I mean, I carry this one around with me on calls, and this can solve majority of applications. If someone just wants a little bit bigger screen, right there.
Right, and then the specs are pretty much the same. The processing power is the same. Everything is, except for in this case, the form factor is a little different because it's such a thin panel.
Yeah.
That the connections are on the back. On the other ones, the connections are on the bottom.
Yep.
But otherwise, it's relatively the same. It's just a change in size.
Yep.
And then same thing with the software. We have 2 tiers to the software, the standard and the advanced. Because if somebody really has no interest or need for some of the things like CAN bus communication or the OPC UA server, then we let you save a bit of money and have a simplified version of the software that doesn't have to support those.
Yep.
Because, of course, some of those third-party things we have to pay licensing for, right? Yeah. So if you really don't need them, you're never going to need them, then let's just cut that cost. But otherwise, yeah, it's 2 different versions of the software. Which one do you want? And then what size do you need?
And for reference, speaking of third-party stuff, I don't think we mentioned it yet, but these things all can run codesys. They can be the PLC, which is one of the craziest things that we talk about all the time. Is, I mean, technically, at the end of the day, you don't want to completely get rid of everybody's thing in their panel and their machine, but you almost can if you really want to.
Yeah.
Yes, you're going to have to possibly learn a new software with codesys, learn how to program something different. Maybe it doesn't have the processing power of a high-end PLC, so you're not going to use it on some ultra-advanced high-speed stuff. But, again, going to like that 80% approach.
Exactly.
This can literally then, for another $99, now be your PLC, which is bonkers.
And for a small machine builder that is creating like a standalone machine, a testing machine, or something that doesn't have tons of high-speed motor, control that you have to do, or, it's not a giant chemical plant that requires safety PLCs and things like that.
Yep.
Then, yeah, this can actually do the job. And codesys is something that, or codesys, depending on, I guess that's how they want to say it these days. I came across that when I worked at Festo, because Festo is a motion control, electromechanical, and pneumatic supplier. So they focus on motion. They've got great motion controllers. And you need PLC type capability in some of those cases. But rather than reinvent the wheel and try to become a PLC company, which they're not, they adopted codesys. So they're also a German company. I think that's where codesys kind of came from, is from Europe. But it's meant to be, it's an open source PLC programming software that can be run on various different hardware. So it's kind of vendor agnostic.
Yep.
And personally, I like things that are open and interoperable. I don't like the artificial kind of keeping customers within some paid wall of only this works with that sort of thing. So I always liked the idea of it. And so when I, found out that, you can run a codesys PLC on the Weintek HMI, I was like, I already know what that is. And back when I was talking about it 10 years ago, not everybody did. But nowadays, I feel like most people do.
Yeah,
they may or may not have tried it yet.
Started coming into the conversation. I mean, just like 3-4 years ago, it was kind of like, I don't know. But it's when you bring it up people at least know what it is now.
Yeah.
And are either more receptive to it or willing to try it out or have already tried it out and just don't want to go down that path. But
I think sometimes it's too organizational, like they want to use it or they've played around with it, but their company spec is something else.
Yeah.
So they don't really have the choice to use it. But most engineers that I found that have tried it really like it. And I most recently, I think it was one of our joint customers, we were talking about his application. He was like, yeah, I came into this project and I saw that you guys were spec'd on this. And I was like, oh, no, I'm going to have to learn another software. Like, he's an Alan Bradley guy. And he was like, it was so easy. I didn't think it was going to be so easy. He's like, I had a working program up and running that weekend. And so I don't know what I was waiting for. This whole time I was like resisting it, thinking it was going to be some, pain in the butt.
Yeah.
And then really it was like, oh, if you're an experienced PLC programmer, like these are the languages that you can do, ladder logic or structure test or all function block programming.
And since it's open source, people have already created all the shortcuts for you.
Exactly.
If you wanted a certain thing done, you can most likely look in these libraries that someone's already developed and drop it in your program and off you go.
And I do know some people that like they use these a lot and they'll use the CodeSys application on it. And then in some cases they'll say, well, you know what, I need the clock speed is not enough for this type of application. So then I use another hardware controller. Again, there's always, being an engineer, you want to have all the tools that you have available at your disposal, and then you pick the right one for the right application. Which is why I think sometimes I forget to even mention this, but because there's just so many features that you can talk about, right?
Yeah.
So usually I end up talking about, okay, what is it that you're trying to solve? And then you pick the features that actually solve that problem.
Sure.
When I'm just trying to lay them all out, I'm like, I feel like I'm going to talk for an hour, go through the whole catalog. I tried to go through the catalog in 5 minutes for a YouTube video before Christmas, and I had to take like 7 takes, and I really only got through the first, I went through just the appendix, the thing that tells you what's in the catalog, because I was like, as soon as I start flipping the pages, I'm going to be doing an hour. Right?
I mean, if someone wants to know what's on one of these, there is a beautiful demo program that comes with every HMI that you can download right from the website. That literally every screen just goes through what is available on these HMIs with samples. So if you're someone that likes interactive stuff, you can just download the demo program, run the simulation on your computer, and poke around and figure out everything it can do.
Another thing I got really tired of personally was just like gated stuff. Constantly, you have to give up all your information. You have to be qualified to know something to be able to get a demo or to be able to get a price. And so Weintek's sort of philosophy of having everything freely available for you. One of these kind of slogans I heard initially was they want to support engineers to be able to design without limits.
Yep.
And I was like, what does that really mean? Well, yeah, if you want to try the software, it's fully available online as a free download. All you have to do is put in an email address. And you don't get a demo version. You don't get a 2-hour demo that you have to reset every 2 hours. You don't get some light version. You get the full thing.
Yeah, and you can do simulation right off your PC if you wanted to.
And you can connect it with an actual PLC and simulate it from your PC. Yeah. So you really can 100% prove out whether or not you like it, whether you want to use it, whether it'll work for your application without having to pay for anything or go through some extensive, gated demo process. I was, sorry, I go on a lot of tangents, but I was working for a software company and we were trying to build kind of a user-led motion. So this was at the time when companies like Slack had gotten really popular by just, instead of selling to the enterprise, they were just like, hey, user, just use this. And then once 100 people in your company are using it, we're going to go try to sell your organization.
Sure.
But the point is you have to design the software for it to be easy enough for people to onboard themselves and get used to using it. And I was trying to do that with the thing we were building. So I looked up companies that help with product-led growth. And I found one, or maybe 2, and I was like, how much does this cost? And the point of it was to help you design software that would actually help people through that user process, and you get metrics and all kinds of things. Well, their process to figure out how much their software was a phone call with an SDR, so a sales development representative, another phone call with an account executive. They still wouldn't give me the price. Then they had to set up a demo, and then at the end of the demo, they would give me a price.
It's worse than buying a car.
So it took me 3 weeks and 3 appointments to find out that the price was way out of my price range. And in the meantime, they shipped me a book their founder had written about product-led growth and a physical brochure. And at the end of it, I was like, this is way out of my price range. We all just wasted our time. a whole lot.
Yeah, that's brutal.
And I hate wasting people's time. And I love the fact that we have the program is free, right? Our support is free through our support forum, which is moderated by our engineers out of the Seattle office. And those are the same engineers that you'll see on our YouTube, creating YouTube videos, how-tos.
That's a very good point to bring up, is the YouTube channel. Is I tout that a lot to our customers. Is a lot of people roll their eyes when you say there's this good YouTube help, because they're just like, you just don't want to help me sell. It's like, honestly, they do them in a way that you will enjoy them, because they're short, they're to the point, they're to the one thing you want to learn at that moment. 2 to 5 minute videos, you can learn that one thing and be done. And it's almost everything that the products can do. I mean,
and we do want to support
our whole team
you.
has just sat there and watched the YouTube videos before we call the engineers, because we'd rather self-learn and be the people first line defense to help anyway.
And I find that most engineers do. They don't love calling tech support. You know, you want to be able to figure it out.
You're ready to rip it off the machine or tear your hair out by the time you're actually calling support, usually.
Exactly. And when you call support, which is like, how often do you actually get the right person on the phone immediately that can actually solve your problem in real time when you're on the phone? It usually requires the phone call, then you get escalated or you get to the right person, and then they usually end up asking you to email them something anyway, the file, the program, right? And then it becomes asynchronous, unless it's one of those just like, hey,
unless they call Barnum, and we just know right off the bat we're that good.
There you go. And that's what we have our amazing distributors for, right? Because we're not we're a relatively small team for what we do. That's again how also we keep our prices the way they are, is we're not trying to be everything to everyone. And the way we can scale that support is through do it online. So, and then with the forum, what that does is if you ask a question that's already been asked, guess what? Your answer is already on the forum. Or if you ask a question that hasn't been asked before, us answering it on the forum creates that knowledge base for the next person. So we can focus our time on supporting our distributors when they have a problem that they actually can't solve, or a customer that doesn't find their answer already on the YouTube or the forum. And that helps us create more knowledge base. And then we use the forum topics to create YouTube videos. So a popular topic on the forum becomes a YouTube video. And the other thing I know about engineers, at least all my friends, they're often working after hours or on the weekends.
Support might not be there.
Support is not going to be there for you anyway.
Or different time zones or all that.
And so you want that combination. I realized some companies really think about, we want to provide support this way, or we want to sell this way because it works best for us. And I think I like to be customer centric and think about, okay, what actually works for the customer? And there's different customers, and they like to do things differently.
Absolutely.
So the more we're able to kind of proliferate that into different places, you can get direct support from your distributor and call them up, because you should have a good relationship. Or you should be able to go online and find the information that you need, or get it answered. Some people still go like and ask their questions on Reddit or PLC forums. So I want to get the word out about our forum. It's actually answered by engineers, not just other users. But we try to go on. I mean,
even maybe our Chat GPT and our other AI might even be looking in those forums now too.
It is, yeah, and it actually pulls like, and the unfortunate thing is like it pulls things from Reddit and whatnot.
Yeah.
And some of that information is really good, and sometimes it's not, because some people have no idea and they talk about things they don't know, and other people there's people on there with all kinds of great knowledge. But I did, on the first day I joined Weintek, I went and did a deep dive on the internet. And I went 10 years back on Reddit and forums to see what people had to say about Weintek. And I got 100 testimonials on our page out of that. And it was really cool to see that, sort of quiet, but people that really use the product, they really like it.
Yeah.
And I did ask.
That's unfiltered opinions when you're browsing Reddit comments.
Yeah. It's not, oh, I picked the best, nice thing that a customer said about me, and I'm going to put that on the website.
Yeah.
And we do have that on the top of the page.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have all the just user-generated stuff on the bottom. So if you go to our WeintekUSA.com testimonials page, it has a few nice ones up top that we've pulled from Google reviews and things like that. But then at the bottom, it's kind of a living page where I constantly add social media posts, projects that I see. If anybody posts like a picture of their project that they did with Weintek, or Reddit posts and stuff like that. And I pull in, of course, mostly nice things that people say.
And you guys aren't, hounding people's emails with, we'll give you an Amazon gift card if you give
No.
us a good review or anything.
Exactly. And I think at this point too, we're saturated with fake reviews everywhere. Like Amazon, it used to be easy to go on Amazon, look for a product, look for the reviews, and then pick a good product or a seller. And now, like, everybody's paid for thousands of reviews for their product, and so it's just, I can't trust them anymore.
It's brutal.
It is.
Yeah.
And so I think it's more worth it to see, like, legit users. And I'll pull in ones that say not so nice things along with nice things, too, because, honestly, not everybody, like, there's pros and cons to everything. Mm-hmm. And if you say that, hey, you kind of don't like this thing, but overall you love it, or you like this feature or that feature, to me, that's like, I would trust that more than somebody that just says, oh, it's the best thing ever.
Yep. Because people sometimes do want to search for the worst comments first to see what pain points there are before they make decisions on things.
Yeah.
Not everything is, rainbows and sparkles. There's definitely stuff burning in the background once in a while.
Yeah. And everybody encounters some things like, oh, there may be a software bug, or there may, or there may be a workaround that you have to do in our software that's super easy in somebody else's. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, because we only focus on doing one thing and we develop for that, we can actually take those things and take feedback and improve our software. And that's another thing I think a lot of people, they're like, I tried Weintek back, 5 years ago one time for a project, and this sucked. Or, it was great, but I did something really basic. And it's like, yeah, we've been developing that software for the last 6 years since then. It's not like a one and done thing. We just made it. And, the other thing that we struggle with sometimes is people don't believe that the software can be good because it's free.
Yeah, that too. Agreed.
Do you get resistance with that?
Yep. You see why, what premium features is it missing because it's free?
Yeah. It's got to be some sort of low tier starter.
Well, big name AB, quote, has such and such feature. Can this do it? Well, duh.
Yeah, and
why wouldn't it do it?
And you don't have to pay for it, whereas you have to pay for it extra there.
Yep.
I actually didn't know until after, when some of my friends that program that stuff. We did a online demo on Automation Ladies. I pulled our engineer to do a little Easy Builder Pro demo, and one of my friends asked about alarming, and he was like, "Yeah, of course we can do alarming."
Yeah, it's pre-built in there.
Yeah,
and
you can send it to your email, or you send a text message. And she was like, "Wait, you mean I don't have to be paying for this extra subscription?" That's I don't want to quote it because I don't remember how much it was, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
I was like, I had no idea that you were paying for that. That sounds insane.
It is. It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's easy to have those conversations with the people that actually get involved with it, for sure.
Exactly.
It's eye-opening. And again, you always get those questions like, are you sure it's only that much?
Yeah. And that's why I love going out and having these conversations with people, because I learn so much from what they want to know about what we can do. Because there's so much, we make the product and we can tell you how great these features are, but in practice, it's the users that tell us. And I've actually had people come to me with case studies of things they've done. They're like, you don't even have this in your training material, but I did this. I built this entire SCADA system, or I was able to, basically, instead of having to do a SCADA implementation at my plant, I already had, even the older Weintek HMIs were already installed on all the machines. So all I had to do was buy one headless unit to aggregate them, and then a couple of cloud dashboard things, and I had all the SCADA functionality I needed. Now I'm not going to say it's a full-blown SCADA, but depending on what you're actually looking to do with it, this person was able to, with no extra budget, no IT necessary, was able to implement a full energy monitoring SCADA by buying maybe less than $1,000 worth of stuff. And that's something that would normally take a huge SCADA implementation and thousands of dollars to do.
Absolutely.
And he was just lucky that he already, his plant already had a bunch of our MT series HMIs, which thankfully already have a lot of the stuff built in, even though it wasn't the newer CMT series. So we do have a few other things other than HMIs, but kind of just to support the functionality of the HMI.
Yeah.
So if you're going to run a Codesys PLC on a soft PLC, you do need I/O, right? And so you notice this doesn't come with I/O. We don't do a combo PLC HMI thing. But our answer to that is to have remote I/O. Mm-hmm. You can use ours or you can use anybody else's. But that's kind of, we want to enable you, if you are a small machine builder, to be able to use that.
Package if
exactly.
Necessary.
You could do the whole package. And then really the advantage of going with ours is that we've made a software that, again, makes it really, really easy to play together. So tag imports and mapping I/O to the PLC program. Those are all things that can be really painful or time intensive to do. So we've made it super simple. Maps real easily.
Pre-built.
Very quick.
Plug and play.
Yeah. And then trying to make cost-effective options. So this is like a combo unit that has the coupler, the communication coupler built in, and then also high-density remote I/O. So in a lot of small applications, you can get away with just this little thing without having to get expansion cards.
Yep.
But then you can always pop on more if you want to. But what we're not going to do is give you the option of 5 different types of terminal connectors, because we're not an remote I/O specific company, right?
Yep.
If you want, there's all kinds of different new cool things when it comes to that.
Oh yeah.
Then you can use anybody else's, right? But we want to offer a really tight product line that can accomplish a lot without getting too complicated. I guess the other thing, now that I'm kind of pointing at product and talking about it.
Yeah, if you're just listening, we got a couple things on the table.
Yeah,
Nikki's
so
just pointing at a couple of
I
them
pointed out our IR series I/O, and we have this kind of Ethernet, and these are both either Ethernet or Modbus, and then we have a couple other options for couplers, EtherCAT, and I may be blanking on something right now. But then the other thing that we have is a little slice that goes in on the DIN rail, and it's called a headless HMI or a faceless HMI. And I realize that there's still a lot of people out there that don't know what that is. And how does that make sense? What's an HMI without a screen? Isn't it the screen? That's the whole point of it, is that it's the screen.
Well, we just spent the last however many minutes talking about there's more than just the screen with all these Weintek units.
Exactly.
So there you go.
So the idea of the faceless or headless HMI is that everything that you need to program in an HMI is really in the EasyBuilder Pro software, and then it gets displayed on this nice touchscreen, right? And that's either run on the touchscreen itself, or in this case, the faceless, I think the original intent was kind of that you can connect it with any monitor that you want.
Yeah, because plants have big, giant TVs for their run rates and part counts.
OEE, bingo board, whatever you want to call it. So we have one with a HDMI output, so you can buy whatever size screen you want. And it's a real inexpensive way to display data, and you don't have to pay for extra licenses to display the data, which I just found out yesterday in some cases are like $1,000 a pop per extra screen that you just want to display data on. So that's one use case. The other is because we don't offer special ratings for things like waterproof or we don't have every size in the book, then you can use this same program and then pop on whatever screen you want.
Yep.
Any size, any rating, or in some cases like remote pump stations, you really don't need an HMI being out there being exposed to the elements or to some random person that walks by at any given time. You just need it when a maintenance person comes up or an operator, which may be periodic. They only need access to it when they're there or possibly remotely. Then you really don't need a physical screen. That person can, stay in their truck and just pull it up on their laptop or on their tablet or whatever, and then access the HMI that way.
Sure.
And then I actually saw reviews, or online posts of people. They're like, "Yeah, I just buy those for protocol conversion."
Yes, we've used that quite a few times. People, I mean, anything from serial to just like even a USB badge reader. They're like, it doesn't come into my Allen Bradley PLC.
Yeah.
Drop that in there and convert it over. Now you got your RFID tag, things like that.
Exactly. So once you kind of understand the capability of some of these things, like I usually see tons of light bulbs go off. Like, oh, I could actually do this and this and this and there. And then yesterday we were doing a lunch and learn and just at a big machine builder, and they're mostly spec'd from their customers, so they don't really have a choice oftentimes in what HMI they put on their systems. But when they heard about that, and then our CMT viewer app, that's another one. So our CMT viewer app, if you guys have heard of VNC viewer apps, they're kind of generic ways to remotely view the screen of an HMI, but it always mirrors the HMI. It shows you exactly what's on the HMI and then lets you interact with that. Our app called CMT Viewer, which is free to download, has that, but kind of on steroids, we like to say. It has multi-user authentication with different levels of access, and you can have multiple users accessing the same HMI, different pages or different screens at the same time without interfering with each other. And you can also access it from multiple different types of devices. Laptop, somebody in a production control room, they can be on their computer. As long as you're on the plant network, then you can access that through the viewer app And you can even run the viewer app. We have a HMI that comes exclusively just with the viewer app on it. So with no programming, you could kind of have a remote way to look at your HMI.
Sure.
But one of the values we say that, during commissioning, when you have somebody that needs to check the alignment of a sensor on this side of the line, they don't have to have somebody at the HMI yelling at them what they see on the screen or walking back and forth. They can be checking that. Somebody else can be checking something else. And somebody else that's not even there, or maybe away, can be checking the maintenance screen or whatever. So this machine builder, they're like, if anything, immediately we're going to start putting these on all of our machines just for our own use of when we're commissioning the machine. Whether the customer wants to use this or not, we don't really care. We don't even need them to.
I don't want to have to sit next to it with a physical cord plugged in at all times, doing the most basic of stuff.
And just that already pays for itself over and over in like pricing, is one of those things you don't want to say online, but it's like what, $300-400, something like that. And you think about the engineering hours that you spend during commissioning. You've saved that multiple times over just by popping this thing on there.
Yeah, it's a couple tanks of gas driving back and forth to the plant.
Yep.
That you could have just been remotely connected and doing it.
And I think at the time that was also when tablets became more mainstream. And so the thought was maybe like, oh, the factory of the future, everybody just walks around with an iPad.
Yeah.
They're not going to want these stationary HMIs, which has turned out not to be the case at all. Hardly anybody wants, actually, their operators walking around with iPads.
It's weird. I really thought it would kind of go that way.
Yeah.
It works like that in doctor's offices, but definitely not in manufacturing.
Not in a manufacturing plant. And I've seen some startups that, they're like, oh, our interface is a tablet, and it's basically an iPad. And, you plug that in with that USB-C, right? Problem is, you've got vibration. Those connectors are not meant for industrial environments. They pop right out.
It's most likely a very custom system that someone built for it, too.
Yeah. So it was, I think, so on my podcast, one of my co-hosts, Courtney Fernandez, she's a robotics engineer. It was during like a competition, this robotics startup. They actually failed out of the competition just because their connector came out and they weren't able to communicate with their robot. And that's something that them, from like their startup environment, they haven't been in a lot of physical plants for a very long time. They don't realize some of the realities of the industrial environments that we've just in, like a lot of this consumer tech stuff. Yes, it's really cool, but it doesn't really make sense in our use cases. Another one is like this metal forming cutting machine that my dad was designing the control system for, and the owners were like, yeah, just put an iPad on there or an Android tablet. And he's like, well, what happens if your operator walks away with it at the end of the day on accident? People forget stuff.
Yep.
And then nobody can operate the machine the next day. Like, what about the next shift? And they're like, oh, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. We should have something mounted on the machine and stuck there.
I mean, you're buying a chain.
Yeah. But I do like the idea that, when we think we see a major change in the industry or a trend that we know our customers are going to want to follow, whether or not it may be the best thing or not, is we try to enable that technology into our HMI so that we stay relevant and that we stay, on top of being able to enable whatever our engineers want to do with it. I do think that some of these things are kind of underutilized. And like, that's okay, because they're just in there anyway. And you use it if you want, and you don't have to use it if you don't want to.
Yep.
That's up to you.
Future-proof your design if you want.
Yeah.
Well, I think we covered a lot. I think we should probably start kind of wrapping ourselves up.
Yeah. As you can tell, so, or maybe your audience can tell. I've realized this, I only found out like 2 years ago that I have ADHD. And one of my traits is I am intensely interested in things that are intensely interesting to me. And when they're not anymore, I could care less, or like it kind of leaves my brain. So I require to work on very interesting things. And they keep my attention. The other thing is called like special interests, and info dumping is a characteristic of a lot of neurodivergent people. And so I could go on and on and on for hours. So thank you for indulging me and letting me talk about this.
No, absolutely. I mean, and that's the whole point of this, is these type of conversations don't get to happen on just a normal sales call or a 15-minute show and tell.
Yep.
You get to come in and talk to our salesman during a meeting, something like that. This is the equivalent of many, many, many different sales calls or hours of playing around with product or talking to other engineers, things like that. So overall, thank you.
You're welcome.
For
I hope it turns
spewing
on
all the extra for us.
I hope it turns on some light bulbs and those conversations that are more targeted can happen based on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's exciting stuff, and it is a lot of I would say underutilized product and underutilized conversation. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's not brought up at all because so many people are just I need a cross for this.
And the HMI is a little bit of an afterthought. It's kind of like, yes, I need a way to interact with this great control system that I built. Right?
Which, when we hear this conversation, it might now be something that's at the beginning of the machine building, saying, hey, we don't need that, and that because we just have this.
Exactly.
And it's just a different way to approach it.
Yep.
After learning what it can do.
Exactly.
Like I said, if it's just a screen with some buttons on it, yeah, toss it on at the end. We have this conversation at the beginning, change the whole conversation on maybe the way you're building your machine.
Exactly.
So, well, again, I appreciate this
Thank
conversation.
You.
Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
If anybody wants more information than this on this product line, I don't know what else you're going to have to talk about. Just listen to this. You're going to get most of the information. But you got a Barnum rep, you got Weintek reps, you got app engineers that know everything we can know about these possibly. If we don't know it, then we reach out to the suppliers. But if you want demos, we got them. We can help program stuff. We can show live demos.
And you can check them out in your automation trailer.
And yes, in the automation trailer that drives all over the country, there's screens, there's all kinds of that on there to play with functionality-wise. And again, we mentioned at the beginning of this stuff is in stock.
Yes.
Whether it's in stock here at Barnum, which we stock a ton of it here at Barnum, it's most likely in stock in Seattle.
Yes, that's right. And because we have the time zone advantage as well, we can usually ship out same day if you're at the end of your day here on the East Coast. And we're very responsive with that. Our warehouse folks are great. And unlike some manufacturers that take 2 to 3 business days to fulfill factory orders, we are on top of that. Cause
that's how we tout ourselves here too.
Yeah.
If you're not getting a quote back within possibly minutes, there's a struggle going on from someone here at Barnum.
Thank you guys for being such a great partner. I mean, this is everything that you're doing here and what you're investing in, and it's just very exciting, and it's a great partnership to have.
Yeah, thank you. And we will see you guys next time on the next episode of Automation Nation. Thanks for listening to this long one, and hope you guys learned a little something from it. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.